Let us commence with my personal history of, / general feelings toward, the Naked Gun franchise. I absolutely love it. It's fucking hysterical. Though prior to this year, I had really only ever viewed bits and pieces of primarily the 1988 picture, and had zero knowledge that this spoof series started out as a half-hour television program. Well, my lovely bespectacled chum and I got to talking about these comedies right as the summer began, and it wasn't long before we mutually produced a genius, in retrospect, idea that on an August weekend, I know I'm dating myself here, we would binge watch the trio of funny features before venturing to the cinema in order to view the recently released fourth entry in the series, directed by Lonely Island member Akiva Schaffer. For a little over 4 hours, we wailed like banshees, laughing banshees. Though my personal ratings of the original 3 films follow the slightly declining trajectory of the Rotten Tomatoes critic scores, all of these flicks are loaded with classic bits, and I'm grateful for each of their respective existences. I always get a kick out of the gag in movie 1, in which one of Ludwig's goons shouts out to a distant Drebin that he's got a message from his boss before unloading his firearm, missing Frank with every bullet. Frank shouts back, claiming that the gunfire is making it so that he can't hear the intended message. I fucking chortle through everything having to do with one Enrico Palazzo. At the Royal Ball game, Drebin is forced to disguise himself as the Italian singer of the American national anthem, before then needing to assume the identity of the game's umpire. Frank puts on a physically hilarious and ridiculous show, but the comedic cherry on top is that ultimately, when the mischievous umpire is unmasked, and we're anticipating a recognition of the police lieutenant, everyone instead recognizes him as the apparently exceptionally multi-talented Enrico Palazzo. I absolutely adore those physical pieces where we witness verging on impossibly performed acrobatic choreography, clearly executed by stunt doubles. There's the scene during which Frank stylistically searches Jane's apartment in movie 1, and the moment depicted via extreme wide shot in movie 2, in which Frank and Jane dance like fucking maniacs far in the background. Movie 2 also gives us the silly but brilliant scene in which Nordberg continues finding himself stuck beneath cars and buses. He's also forced to confront multiple prickly obstacles, which coincidentally find themselves precisely in the middle of the road down which OJ travels. While the 1988 original is a comedic classic, and its sequel is a slightly inferior but hysterical blast, number 3 is technically the weakest, but it certainly possesses its multiple moments of hilarity. You've got a cheeky opening sight gag, as well as a fun spoof of the Shawshank Redemption. Not to mention 1994's The Naked Gun 33 1/3 features some of my all-time favorite Frank Drebin soliloquies. Truly, the entirety of this trilogy features a seemingly endless barrage of humorous bits. I could go on for goddamn hours. I mean, practically every scene features some sort of comedic nugget, and each of these movies are so tight in terms of duration. Alright, so, over 3 decades later, we've got a reboot coming to theaters, and no matter who was behind or in front of the camera, what mattered most of all from the very first frame was whether or not they submitted themselves and their sensibilities to that classic silly style of comedy, and thankfully the team responsible for 2025's The Naked Gun absolutely understood the assignment. This flick is packed with funny bits, just like its predecessors. We're given ultra-effective slapstick, a boatload of puns, very literal interpretations of sarcasm, and a straighter-than-straight man as the lead. As soon as Liam Neeson was announced in the role of Frank Drebin Jr., I instantly knew it was the perfect casting choice, solely due to his role in the brilliant Ricky Gervais's program Life's Too Short. Through Neeson's performance here, even simply his involvement in the blooper reel, I knew that his inherent dead serious acting chops would surely translate to this particular picture. Danny Huston is also a wonderfully straight, dramatic antagonist, the best in the series since Ricardo Montalban in the original 1988 feature. I love the bit in which Drebin goes through the old trope of coming up with a moniker using his surroundings, needlessly going too far with the joke, leaving Pam Anderson's Beth Davenport with the disguised name Cherry Roosevelt Fat Bozo Chowing Spaghetti. I nearly died in the movie theater whilst laughing hysterically at the Austin Powers-esque bit which features the great Kevin Durand. He spies on Drebin and Beth via these infrared binoculars through closed curtains to view what appears to be a display of some absolutely heinous sexual activities involving Frank's beloved dog Buster. I also had a freaking blast viewing the romantic montage that devolves into a horror story co-starring a demonic living snowman. Now, I read recently that David Zucker, director of the first two films in the franchise, stated that the team behind this 2025 reboot essentially produced a big budget blunder which totally missed the mark. Yes, the man is a spoof movie genius, and I understand the general concept that many artists can be a bit precious about their original work, but of course, I disagree in a couple regards. Firstly, this flick cost just over $40 million, which in today's economy is far from a big budget film. Certainly there are action sequences that are far more grand and boisterous when compared to the original trilogy. We're not meant to ooh and ah at the badassery of the stylistic action, which would have absolutely been a mistake. Naked Gun 2025 takes things to the next level in that regard. I mean, don't we want our sequels to differentiate themselves from the original in some ways? Our lead character even cracks a joke about this exact idea. He speaks to a photo of his late father, stating that he wants to be just like him while also being completely different. I mean, Neeson takes off limbs and beats a man with them. He eats an armed man's gun, while hand-to-hand combat for some reason transitions to a game of patty cake, all before Drebin blows the man away with his little finger gun. It's fucking ridiculous, and it's so goddamn fun and funny. I'm so happy for this new movie's existence. It's a fantastic follow-up to the classic comedy series, and I, alongside many others, feel as though the late great Leslie Nielsen would be very proud.